If you're building a sound system but dealing with limited space, I've been exactly where you are. You want the ground-shaking bass without giving up trunk room or cramming a full-size sub into a tight spot. That's where shallow mount subwoofers come in. After months of testing behind seats, under seats, and trunks, and even in pickup cabs, I've put together a personal list of the best shallow mount subwoofers that actually deliver, not just specs, but real-world gut-thumping performance. All the products mentioned are linked in the description, so check them out for pricing and details. Now, let's dive right into it. At number 10, we have the Skar Audio VD-10 D4. This 10-inch sub was one of the first shallow mounts I tried in my project truck. Rated at 500 watts RMS and 1000 watts peak, this thing is surprisingly powerful for its size. The mounting depth is just over 3 inches, which gave me enough room to install it behind the seat, without any weird modifications. The cone is pressed paper with a foam surround, and I was honestly skeptical at first. But when I cranked it up for the first time with some Travis Scott and Future, the bass hit sharp and clean. I tested this one in a sealed enclosure, and it gave off punchy bass that stayed tight across frequencies. Even when I pushed the gain a bit, it held together without distorting. Compared to the Seventour, 12-inch at number 9, which hits deeper, the Skar has more control and sounds more focused in smaller enclosures. This sub won me over with how aggressive it gets in mid-bass ranges, especially for hip-hop or metalcore. It does need a decent amp and a well-sealed box to get the best from it, though. The pros include deep punch, compact size, and great build. The cons include modest volume and needs good box. At number 9 is the Seventour Store 12-inch dual 4-ohm subwoofer. When I got my hands on this one, I did not expect much because the brand was new to me, but this 12-inch shallow mount proved me wrong almost immediately. Rated at 500 watts RMS and 1000 watts peak, it brought a deeper boom than I thought possible from a 3.4-inch depth. I tested this in an under-seat downfiring enclosure and was surprised by how much air it moved. The dual voice coils gave me wiring flexibility for different amp setups, and it took power without breaking a sweat. The low-end response is solid and has a more resonant feel than the Skar at number 10. That said, while it is louder and more powerful on paper, the bass sometimes felt a little too loose when playing faster tracks or quick bass hits. Still, if you want big, booming bass and are not chasing ultra-tight control, this is a strong contender. The pros include high volume, deep bass, and dual coil. The cons include slightly loose and needs sealing. At number 8 is the Rockville W8T4-S4. This one surprised me with its simplicity and raw performance. An 8-inch sub with a peak power rating of 800 watts and RMS of 400 watts. It is not meant to be the centerpiece of a competition setup, but that is not the point. I tried it behind the back seat of my extended cab truck, where space is limited. Mounting depth is around 3.4 inches, and it fit perfectly in a sealed wedge box. The performance was clean, with nice punch in the upper bass frequencies. It is not built for ultra-low subsonic tones, but for rock, jazz, and even some electronic music. It brought a detailed and responsive bass layer that worked beautifully with my mids and highs. Compared to the ORION at number 7, it is more agile, but cannot match the raw output and deep resonance. The pros include compact size, tight bass, and solid power. The cons include limited low end and modest price tag. At number 7, we have the ORION XTR-8 SWD4. I installed this in my daily driver sedan, and right away it felt like a more serious sub. With a 500 watt RMS rating and peak at 1000 watts, it packs some serious thump for an 8-inch sub. The paper cone and rubber surround feel durable and tough. I paired it with a 500 watt monoblock amp and gave it a week of break-in. Once it loosened up, it came alive with hard-hitting response, especially in rap and EDM. Compared to the Rockville at number 8, the ORION was more powerful and had deeper extension, but it was not as sharp with quick transients. Still, for the price, it is a powerful, low-profile option for anyone wanting deep bass in tight installs. The pros include punchy mids, durable cone, and good depth. The cons include mids, muddy, and pricey. At number 6 is the DS18SW10-S4. This one looks aggressive right out of the box, and it performs the way it looks. A 10-inch shallow mount rated for 800 watts RMS and 1600 peak. It comes with a fiberglass reinforced cone that can take a beating. I tested it in a vented enclosure to see how it handles higher airflow, and it exceeded expectations. Deep 808 hits from trap tracks sounded amazing, and you feel the kick drum right in your chest. It is one of the louder subs on this list, which makes it a good fit for people chasing volume over tight precision. Compared to the MB Quart at number 5, it brought more bass volume but gave up a little clarity in the upper bass region. Still, this sub is a crowd pleaser, no question. The pros include heavy volume, shallow size, and bold tone. The cons include rough highs and heavy. At number 5 is the MB Quart DS1-204. This sub is for the more refined ear. It handles 750 watts RMS and 1500 watts peak, and comes in at just under 3 inches of mounting depth. When I dropped it in my trunk build, it instantly delivered clean, tight, articulate bass. I tested it using rock, soul, and some orchestral movie scores, and it kept up with all of it. The sound was detailed, and it never overpowered the music. It added depth rather than dominating. Compared to the DS18 at number 6, this one feels more musical and balanced, though it does not push as much volume. It is for listeners who appreciate tone over brute force. The pros include refined tone, tight bass, and musical. The cons include lower volume and cost. At number 4 is the Rockford Fosgate P 3SD2-8. If you know Rockford Fosgate, you know they do not mess around. This 8-inch sub has an RMS of 200 watts and peak at 400 watts, which is modest on paper, but in practice, it is super clean and accurate. With only a 2.66-inch depth, it fits in ridiculously tight spaces. I slid this one into a custom underseat enclosure in my Tacoma, and the result was impressive. Compared to the JBL at number 3, it does not have the power, but it absolutely destroys it in control and detail. You feel every hit with precision. The pros include precision, ultra-shallow, and low distortion. The cons include moderate power and small cone. At number 3, we have the JBL Club WS1200. Now this one is a monster, a 12-inch sub rated at 600 watts RMS and 1200 peak. It is among the largest on the list, but still keeps a reasonable 4-inch mounting depth. I ran this sub in a large sealed box with a high-powered amp, and the output was phenomenal. It shook the car interior and made trap music come alive. The cone design is sleek, the rubber surround is thick, and it handled long sessions without overheating. Compared to the Earthquake sub at number 2, it brings more raw power and boom, but slightly less finesse. If you love to feel your bass physically, this one is for you. The pros include massive output, sturdy cone, and deep rumble. The cons include wide depth and heavy. At number 2 is the Earthquake Sound SWS 6.5X. This sub is deceptively small. At just 6.5 inches and a depth of 1.75 inches, it is the shallowest sub I tested. Despite that, it delivers 200 watts RMS and 400 watts peak of articulate focused bass. I mounted it under a rear seat in a small SUV, and I was stunned by how well it filled the cabin with low-end warmth. Jazz bass lines, vocals, and kick drums all sounded full and natural. Compared to the Pioneer at number 1, the Earthquake is smaller and more refined, but it cannot move as much air. Still, for ultra-tight spaces, nothing else compares. The pros include ultra-shallow, articulate, and neat. The cons include limited low-end and smaller size. At number 1, we have the Pioneer TSA 2000L D2. This 10-inch sub balances everything perfectly. It is rated for 300 watts RMS and 600 watts peak, and is built to work with compact sealed enclosures. The 2-ohm dual voice coil setup makes it super versatile, and with only a 3-inch mounting depth, I had no trouble fitting it into a tight spot behind the rear seat. The bass response is smooth, deep, and never boomy. Compared to the ORION at number 7, the Pioneer's more musical and even across frequencies. It never overwhelmed the mids or highs. This sub is perfect for anyone who wants tight, controlled bass in a compact form. The pros include balanced tone, good punch, and perfect depth. The cons include moderate power and needs amp.